Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. It's a lovely sunny day here in the UK, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jesse Sklar, who is the Sales Business Development Manager, and Jeff Morrow, who is the Principal Engineer for Helium Technologies, and they're both from PTI, which is Packaging Technology Inspections. And today we're going to be talking about helium leak testing. So, gentlemen, how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Doing well, thank you.
It's lovely to see you both. And
same here.
For those people who aren't aware, Jesse and Jeff are calling in from New Jersey. So for today's call, I am calling them the Jersey boys just to make life a little bit easier. But they're not going to break into song, or maybe they are. I'll be happy if they do. That would be good. Well, gentlemen, lovely to see you both. Before we start talking about helium leak testing, what it is and why it's important, perhaps you could give me a quick overview of the business and also your backgrounds as well, if that'd be all right.
Oh, sure. PTI is a global leader in leak detection systems, over 35 years of experience. And we started out mainly manufacturing non-destructive leak detection systems such as vacuum decay, high voltage leak detection, as well as airborne ultrasound. I've been with the company about 10 years now, and we have recently acquired LDA, which is where Jeff comes into the picture. So my overall background is about 30 years in the packaging industry, starting selling variable printing equipment for packaging machines, lock code expiration dates, moving on to selling entire packaging lines, and then particularly focusing in on powder and liquid filling monoblock systems, as well as capsule filling systems. And then about 10 years ago, moved over to PTI to inspect those various containers that it was filling. So that's my background.
Fantastic, thanks. And Jeff?
Greetings, Jeff Morrow from Leak Detection Associates. I was one of the principal founders of leak detection going back about 25 years now, and I'm continuing that foray with PTI, the PTI team, in promoting the helium leak testing technologies and the methodologies used in that particular industry.
Brilliant. So let's start with a really basic question. What is helium leak testing and why is it important?
Helium leak testing takes the molecule or the atom of helium, uses it as a tracer gas to ascertain leakage in many types of packaging formats. Anything from a cold form blister card to a vial package, or syringes, cartridges, anything along those lines that require a higher level of seal quality and a higher level of sensitivity as far as leak detection is concerned. It's important, again, primarily because a lot of new products today are either moisture or oxygen sensitive, or in the case of parenterals, we're looking for sterility barrier properties to be maintained during the lifetime or the shelf life of that particular product.
All right. And Jesse, have you got anything to add to that?
And just basically, it adds another tool to our arsenal, so to speak. We started with a lot of the non-destructive technologies. Helium is considered a destructive technology if you're using it against the product. So we have the abilities to test filled products on a non-destructive basis, for say stability studies with the product in there, or for product release out into the market. And then this adds another layer onto our ability to inspect those very, very small leaks and understand the leak rates, especially during maybe drug development phase and things of that nature, or container development phase. So it's just really a great addition onto PTI's existing technology.
Fantastic. So what was the catalyst that led you to apply helium mass spectrometry to package and container leak testing?
Sure. Well, back in the late 90s, we were approached by a major pharma company looking to figure out why their cold form foil packages were failing in stability within a 3-month period of time. At that point in time, back in that era, so to speak, they were just using strictly bubble testing and dye ingress testing, which for this, if you're putting it in a high barrier material, you need something much more sensitive that's going to find out where those leaks are, or how much of your package is leaking. So we started looking around at all the various leak testing technologies that were out there at the time, came up with just on a whim thought about helium mass spectrometry and helium leak testing that was not really used in the pharma or any kind of food or medical device application at all.
Right.
Started playing around with some ideas, some concepts, built some hardware, built a program, and came up with some test methodologies in order for us to introduce this to the pharma market as another means, as Jesse said, another tool in the toolbox of leak testing for these various products.
Yeah, well, another great example, obviously, of someone coming up with an idea to solve someone's particular problem by having to come up with a new solution for that particular problem.
Correct.
Yeah, and Jesse, have you got anything to add to that at all?
And just helium's been around a long time in terms of using it as a tracer gas. And helium's great because it's non-flammable. It's non-reactive to the containers, or even if you do happen to have it using it with a product, say above a fill in a vial, just looking for leaks from the gas headspace of the vial, non-reactive, so it's not affecting the container. And then it's also very rare in the environment. It's only 5 parts per million, so you don't have a lot of background helium. So it works really well as a tracer gas. And it's what LDA was able to do was really improve, build a lot of the tools and the test chamber designs, and really improve upon what was out there in terms of helium leak detection for the pharma and medical device markets.
Right, great. Well, you may have already answered this then partly with what you just said there, Jesse, but why is helium used as a tracer gas? And I think you've answered most of that anyway, but also can you give a description, brief description of how the system works in terms of detecting leaks?
Sure, absolutely. In the case of, let's say, a glass vial or any type of vial structure, we have helium inside the container or the package. We pull a vacuum around this in a sealed vessel. That gas stream is then introduced to the helium mass spectrometer, and the helium atoms are pulled out of the entire gas stream and separated very reliably and selectively. And then that gas stream or that leak rate is then converted into a helium leak rate. In generally millibars liters per second is the flow rate designation. We talk about helium leak rate in scientific notation or exponential notation. So you'll hear me talk about 5 times 10 to the minus 6 millibars liters per second, or 7.3 times 10 to the minus 8 millibars liters per second, and that's all helium flow rate.
Right.
So in exponential notation, the higher the exponential, the lower the helium leak rate, which tends to confuse people at first. But if you think about where that decimal place is in that series of numbers, then you'll understand the true value of a leak rate, helium leak rate.
Right. Okay. And is helium leak testing an ASTM standard?
Yes, we were instrumental. Leak Detection Associates was instrumental in authoring ASTM F2391-05, which
I'm glad you remember that off the top of your head.
it's been ingrained in there for many years. It goes through and describes the 2 basic helium test methods that are used today, one of which is hard vacuum, which I described earlier, by putting the sample into a closed vacuum vessel and getting a helium leak rate from that method, or using what's known as a sniffer probe or a sniffer wand, which is basically just using a pinpoint or a pencil point type device, and you're actually just sampling around your package structure for generally gross leaks, something in the 10 to minus 6 or 10 to minus 5 range, where you're trying to actually pinpoint locations of where your package may be leaking.
Right. And just anything to add to that?
Just that PTI has been very active in the ASTM for many years. The ASTM method for vacuum decay, which is F2338-09, was developed using PTI's equipment. So when we were looking at Leak Detection Associates and the method, we wanted to make sure it was an ASTM method. So it tied in well with what PTI was doing or work with the ASTM.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the packaging itself that you can use this for. So what packages or products are tested for closure container integrity with helium leak testing, and do they apply more to certain industries than to others as well?
Well, helium, it really has its strengths in, again, high barrier materials or hermetically sealed devices like a vial or a syringe or a cartridge, where you're looking for that higher level of sensitivity, where you're not going to pick that up with most other leak testing technologies out there today. So because helium is the second smallest atom on our environment, in our world, it can get through pretty much any leak crevice, leak pathway, tortuous path, down to the submicron level. So if you have any type of inconsistency in your packaging materials or misfits of components, the helium will get through and it will show you, it will provide a helium leak rate and give you something to compare whether or not you have an acceptable package or you have a failing package where you need to look at making some changes and some updates.
Right. Okay. Anything else to add to that, Jesse?
And just as Jeff had said, it's just a small molecule that it's not. We don't typically see helium used for, say, plastic bags or poly films, because the helium molecule just permeates right through. So we're normally using the helium on pharmaceutical vials, syringes, cartridges, as well as alu blisters, but not on any materials that are film material, so to speak. There is so right now we're mainly focused on the pharma and medical device market. The other areas we might be interested in are in, say, high-tech cameras, things like that, things in the aerospace industry, smaller type of containers to start. There is a lot of helium used for checking pipelines and big valves and things of that nature. And that's not the business we're in, but any type of high-tech, smaller products is really what we're looking to move into in the helium business.
Right. Okay. And at what stage is helium used in terms of the package or product development cycle?
It should be used at the onset of any type of package development, especially with materials such as the alu or any of the parental structures that are out there, because it will allow you to home in on package design, package materials, and gives you that level of assurance that you know that once you produce your product on day one, 2-3 years later, regarding your shelf life, you'll still have an integral package in terms of maintaining that barrier or that seal level, seal quality, seal integrity that you need to maintain for your particular product.
Right. Okay. And when you're talking about cryogenic containers, how do you go about testing that using helium leak testing?
Well, we here at Leak Detection Associates, LDA, we have various apparatus that allow us to actually put our package containers down to those low temperatures, -80, -150, and even approaching liquid nitrogen temperatures at -180, 185. We do so by essentially immersing our vacuum chamber into those cold environments, monitoring that temperature real time, and actually performing the leak test at those specific or those desired temperatures. That's key because, as you know, as you lower temperature on your components, things start to change. You have the glass transition temperature, which will occur. You have your elastomeric stoppers and seals and plungers that are all going to change dimension, all going to change their physical properties of how they exist at room temperature. So knowing how your system performs at these lower temperatures allows you to either make changes or work on other solutions to ensure that you maintain that integrity that you need for your particular product.
Right. And Jesse, anything to add to that at all?
And just that, helium leak detection is also used in conjunction with some other tests, say residual seal force, where you're checking how much, how this, once the crimp is applied, how much force is against that crimp, and how does that react to those cryogenic temperatures. So it really gives you a check, and basically, essentially, an instantaneous check. You can use say Headspace analysis. There's some other companies where you're sending a beam, a laser beam through, and at various frequencies, and how that beam is absorbed will tell you how much helium is remaining or how much oxygen and nitrogen is remaining in the container. In the case of cryo, maybe CO2 is ingressed. You can find the CO2, but that takes time. Whereas helium is a pretty it's an instantaneous test. You know whether you have a leak or not. You don't have to wait for that leak to happen. So it's, again, it's a different tool. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it's a different tool. So there's some of our competitors out there that are discussing well, you can just use Headspace analysis on its own, but it's not going to give you that leak rate right away. It may take weeks or a month to find that leak, then depending upon how large the leak is in the container.
Right. Okay. Well, that leads on quite nicely to my next question, which is what is the link between Headspace analysis and helium leak detection?
Well, we use Headspace analysis in the helium method so that we know how much helium we have in our sealed container, our sealed
Right.
package. That's important to know because the helium detector, I'll call it not a smart device in terms of knowing how much helium concentration it's seeing in that leak rate. So I need to normalize my leak rate to 100% helium so I can always compare various processing parameters, material selections, a whole realm of different packaging formats, and compare them on an apples-to-apples basis. By ascertaining the helium concentration within my package, I can then normalize my leak rate and provide it what we call an actual helium leak rate. So for example, if I had a leak rate that came in at 4 times 10 to the minus 7, and I determined with my apparatus that I only had 50% helium inside that package, my true helium leak rate is actually 8 times 10 to the minus 7. It's actually double because I only have half of the amount of helium that the detector thought it saw.
Right.
So it is key to maintain or to understand how much helium is coming out or how much helium is sealed within your package so that you can correct for that difference in helium concentration.
Right. Brilliant. And just anything else to add?
No, that's it. Just yeah, I brought up Headspace before just to clarify. There are machines that are just doing strictly Headspace analysis only. We're using what we do in terms of Headspace, as Jeff had just mentioned, is using it to just understand the helium concentration so we can normalize the rate at which we're inspecting for the helium flow.
Right. And are there any packages you would say which aren't suitable then for testing using helium leak testing?
Well, as Jesse mentioned earlier, plastic structures do present an issue with helium because being such a small atom and element, it will permeate through rather quickly. So like a plastic vial structure, if I fill that with helium and put that directly into my chamber, I'm going to have an artificially high leak rate, but that's primarily permeation and not true leakage. But we do have means over the years. We have created a variety of different fixtures and very different types of methods and fixtures that allow us to test some of these plastic structures and allow us to eliminate that helium permeation. So all we're strictly looking at is our area of concern, say the neck or the crimp, the stopper area of a vial system.
Right. Okay. And Jesse, would you add anything to that?
And yeah, that's where we would look to other PTI technologies, perhaps. If you say you have a flexible bag filled, we can use vacuum decay. We have a test chamber, draw a vacuum around that bag, and then look for the leak rate from the natural gas that's occurring, or say you have a nitrogen flush inside the container. We can use that type of technology in order to detect leaks from them. Where the helium might just come right away, you do have some gas headspace, or we can, even with vacuum decay or high voltage leak detection, we can detect liquid filled containers. It depends upon the liquid, the viscosity, whether we use, and if it's a proteinaceous product, we might use high voltage leak detection for liquid filled containers, or vacuum decay for basically airhead, looking for gas headspace, or aqueous type liquids. So that's
and are those the two main sort of alternative test methods, or are there other test methods you would say could be used as well for other forms of packaging?
And there are for very, very low headspace packages like a blister pack, we'll use volumetric imaging, where we'll put a blister pack into a test chamber and apply a vacuum, and then look using imaging to see how the lid stock is doming. And if it domes up and stays up during the test time, it's good. If it doesn't dome up at all, there's a gross leak in the package because we pulled all the air out. Or if it domes up and drops down slowly in the test time, we'll know we basically essentially you will use positive controls and we'll detect small leaks in the packages as well. We also use force decay, which is for, say, for example, for a transdermal patch, it's a very difficult item to check because there's virtually no headspace in there. And if you put in helium, it may leak out through the hole you put in. It may be able to get helium in there, but it'll be challenging to do it. So what we're doing there is, again, we're using vacuum to dome up the transdermal pouch and using a sheet of load cells essentially on top of it, and actually measuring the force that's exerted. So again, if it domes up and stays up during the test cycle, exerting force against the load cells that are above it, we'll know we have a good package. If it doesn't dome up at all, it's got a big leak, and if it domes up and drops down slowly, we'll know we have a small leak. And we validated these systems down to 5 microns in terms of leak sizes. So it's not looking for those tiny leaks, but it gives you a non-destructive way to test some challenging products.
Right. Okay. And what are some of the challenges that customers face when using helium leak detection? I mean, for example, how does the customer get the helium into a container or a device?
Well, in our systems, we have a variety of different methods that we actually use to introduce the helium gas prior to checking for the helium leak rate in a closed vacuum system. We have means of injecting the helium into the package structure. In the case of, let's say, a blister card line or aluminum, cold forward blister line, they'll actually flush the helium in between the lidding stock and the bottom stock just prior to sealing. So those packages are already inherently filled with helium and then can thus be tested directly with the helium leak detector and utilize that type of method. But we do have a various set of different fixturing and methods in order to bring the helium to the area of interest during the leak test.
Right. And Jesse, anything else to add to that?
No, I think that covers it, Jeff. I'm relatively new to the world of helium. Jeff has 20+ years experience. I've been mainly working with other test methodologies, but I rely on Jeff for the technical points in terms of the troubles that customers may have.
Yeah, but Jesse, you're very quickly learning, and that's a good thing.
So how is the system calibrated, and how often do you calibrate it?
A helium mass spectrometer utilizes a known leak standard internal to the machine. So at startup of the machine, it'll go through its own self-calibrating process, where it's basically tuning the mass spectrometer to a certain leak rate. We also offer in our systems external leak cylinders that we put directly on the test port. So after we do our internal calibration, we also basically revalidate the system by checking the external leak value at the specific area that we're doing our helium leak testing. So we have a fully validated system utilizing known standards of helium leak rates.
Right. Okay. And talking about validation and compliance, so does the system offer 21 CFR Part 11? I hope I'm saying that right. Compliance of data integrity.
Yes, we do. We've recently launched a new SIM software program that is fully Part 11 compliant, full audit trail. It allows the operator to, from the software, basically operate the helium mass spectrometer on a kind of a hands-off approach. They'll scroll through the various product recipes, obtain their helium leak rates, obtain their helium concentrations, and all that is contained in our one software package that is provided with our systems.
And just have you got anything else to add to that?
No, just that PTI, we have several engineers that are just working on, and programmers, excuse me, that are just working on 21 CFR Part 11 over the last 7-8 years or so. It's really been developed to a high level. We're now applying some of that technology to the SIMs and the leak detection associate machines, just to make it that much better. It's a very high level software. We've gotten a lot of compliments on it, and it does a great job, and it'll just add to what Leak Detection Associates has already done in terms of 21 CFR Part 11.
Fantastic. Right. Well, I think that's about all the time we've got. So where can people get more information about the different technologies that we've been talking about today?
And it's probably best just go to our websites, ptiusa.com or heliumleak.com. Helium Leak was LDA's website, but it's now linked into the PTI website as well. So you can go there and take a look at those websites, and then contact us if customers have any questions or need any additional information.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, all that's left to say is thank you very much. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed that and I found that useful. I mean, I certainly did, because I learned a lot more about leak detection than I knew before I started this conversation. So it's, I mean, it's a fascinating topic, actually, when you think about it. You take these things for granted that all the packaging you get and the things that you have in them are safe to use, but actually they do have to be tested before you get them. So they are actually safe to use. So thank you very much for sharing that information with us. If you would like to know more, as Jesse and Jeff have already said, you can check out their websites. The links will be above the video, and you can leave comments below with any questions below the video, or contact them directly on LinkedIn as well, as they both are on LinkedIn as well. So all that's left for me to say, gentlemen, is thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me today from sunny Jersey, it looks like, at the moment, where you
Yes,
are as well.
It is indeed. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rizwan.
It was lovely to see, and I wish you a fantastic 2021. May it be happy, successful, but most of all healthy as well for you and your loved ones. So thank you very much, and thank you for watching as always. And until next time, please stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.